Schönheit der Schönheit willen in der Schöpfung. I would like to start by sharing my two favorite beautiful views of Germany, meine Lieblingssehenswürdigkeiten in Deutschland. I apologize for the separating the words. Ich bin ein Engländer. Deutsche Wörter sind mir zu lang. So I have to separate the words. Die bayerischen Alpen, sehr schöner. Mein nächster Urlaub wird in den Alpen sein für meine Frau. Der zweitschönste Anblick ist der 8. BMW. Mein nächstes Auto wird ein 8. BMW sein für mich. Bayerischen Alpen für meine Frau, die Auto für mich. This morning we heard that engineers design the beauty of the car, and therefore there must be a designer who designed the beauty of the world. Actually, in my university, I teach students how to design aesthetics on the motor car. It's much harder than it looks. Es ist schwierig. It's a very difficult art. I will mention more about that later in my talk. So this is the contents, Inhalte of my talk. Mit Blumen, ich werde bekräftigen, was wir heute Morgen gehört haben. I will say a little bit more about the design of flowers. But then trees, Bäume, Farben von Tieren, colors of animals. And then 7, eine Überraschung, a surprise for number 7. And then at the end, I will talk about the purpose of beauty, der Sinn von Schönheit. So, das ist wichtig zu wissen. Es gibt 3 Arten von Farben. There are different types of beauty, verschiedene Arten von Schönheit. 2 are shown on this folia. You can have raw beauty, raue Schönheit, like the beauty of the mountains. You can also have added beauty, zusätzliche Schönheit. And the Blumen, the flowers, are a good example of zusätzliche Schönheit. It is different to the raw beauty. But then here we have a third example. So there are 3 Beispiele, Arten von Schönheit. You can have funktionelle Schönheit, functional beauty. The bird, the Möwe, the seagull, has curves on its wings, Kurven, and those curves give it beauty, Schönheit. But this is different to zusätzliche Schönheit. The Pfauer, the peacock, has added beauty, zusätzliche Schönheit. So this is an important concept. Verschiedene Arten von Schönheit. Raue Schönheit, funktionelle Schönheit, zusätzliche Schönheit. 3 Arten von Schönheit, different types of beauty. In my talk, I will fokusiere on zusätzliche Schönheit. I will focus on this type. This one especially reveals God, offenbaren Gottes Handarbeit, his handiwork. So, zusätzliche Schönheit, ein Markenzeichen des Designs. Added beauty is a hallmark of design. And a cathedral, you can see added beauty. Zusätzliche Schönheit lässt sich nicht durch physikalische Funktionen erklären. Added beauty in the cathedral, it does not have a physical function. It doesn't make the cathedral stronger. So we see very particular features of design, zusätzliche Schönheit, Merkmale, features, Kurven und Ränder. We see curves and borders. And we see beautiful themes, Themen, Bögen and Säulen, arches and columns. There's actually a parallel between architecture and music, architecture, music, a similar rules of beauty. And so here we see objective Schönheit, as Marcus explained this morning. It's not just subjective, it's also objective as well. And these beautiful features do not happen by chance. Das geschah nicht zufällig, not by chance. And in the natural world, we see exactly the same thing, das gleiche Dinge. We see added beauty, zusätzliche Schönheit. Zusätzliche Schönheit, eine Ermutigung für Christen, ein großer Ermutigung, das seid Gottes Fürsorge für den Menschen. It's a great encouragement that God has put beauty in the world that we can appreciate. However, we do see some degrading of that beauty, die Folgen des Sündenfalls Adam. The fall of Adam and Eve had a big impact on creation, Auswirkungen auf die Schöpfung. It had a big effect. One of the effects was das Raubtier-Beute-Verhältnis schränkt die zusätzliche Schönheit ein. The predator-prey relationship restricts the amount of beauty. Beispiel, this bird, just a little sparrow, it has camouflage, Tarnung. It had Tarnung, camouflage. And so the beauty has been taken away because of the predator-prey relationship. Before the fall, for Sündenfall, it probably had very bright colors, but now it doesn't. Interessant, the kingfisher, Königfischer, the kingfisher has very leuchtenden, bright Farben, bright colors. So warum the kingfisher has colors, but the sparrow not so bright colors? Warum? The answer, the kingfisher braucht keine Tarnung. The kingfisher does not need camouflage, because when the kingfisher goes into the water, the fish cannot see the kingfisher. Braucht keine Tarnung. And it's interessant that the animals, the Tiere, that did not need, brauchen nicht, did not need Tarnung, they still have bright colors, Leuchtfarben, bright colors. And you can see this pattern in creation. So the fall of Adam and Eve, it has diminished the beauty in creation. As we heard this morning, zusätzliche Schönheit eine Herausforderung an die Evolution. It's a big challenge for evolution. This is a wichtige quotation, important quotation. This scientist was a leader, a Führer for evolution theory, and he said this: kein Thema in der Evolutionsbiologie hat den Theoretikern größere Schwierigkeiten bereitet als Schönheit. Ich stimme diesen Worten zu. Ich stimme. Ein größeres Problem, Herausforderung an die Evolution. The biggest, the größte. This morning, Marcus mentions Darwin and again, Herausforderung an die Evolution, die schnelle Entwicklung aller Gehirnpflanzen innerhalb der jüngsten geologischen Zeit ist, soweit wir beurteilen können, ein abscheuliches Rätsel, an abominable mystery. Darwin knew that flowers were ein großer Problem, a big challenge. Aber heute das Gleiche, keine Fossilienbeweise. Keine Fossilienbeweise. There's still no fossil evidence for the evolution of flowers. So now we come to flowers, Blumen. Beachten. Beachten, Matthäus 6, 28. Gott bewusst, den Blumen würde bewusst Schönheit gegeben. Deliberate. Flowers were deliberately made to be beautiful, bewusst. God clothed the flowers, Kleidung, bewusst. He wanted to make them beautiful. This is the whole the principle of zusätzlicher. This morning we heard these points, eine Herausforderung an die Evolution, keine Fossilien, Beweise für die Evolution, sehr komplexe Farbmechanismen, Schönheit über das Notwendige hinaus. Flowers are more beautiful than they need to be, notwendiger hinaus. Insects could be attracted by a simple pattern or a simple smell. Insects do not need, brauchen nicht, such colors and patterns and beauty. The colors in flowers, sehr komplexe Farbmechanismen, komplexe Pigmentmoleküle absorbieren oder reflektieren bestimmte Wellenlängen des Lichts. These molecules, sehr complex, very, very complicated, and there are thousands of these molecules. Ein Beispiel. Sehr komplexe Farbmechanismen, Butterblumen. I'm sure you have these flowers in your gardens in Germany, buttercups, in English, buttercups. But they have an amazing design because they have this glänzende Farbe, a glossy yellow. It can reflect on your face. Gelbes Carotenoid Pigment, zwei dünne Schichten erzeugen eine glänzende Farbe. Warum? Because weil die Blumen hat Dünnschicht Oberfläche, thin film interference, Dünnschicht Oberfläche. Very complicated physical process to reflect the light. At the bottom of the folia, the slide, there is a scientific paper. The scientist would like to copy this flower, but it's very complicated, very different. So when we look at just one flower, we see a very complex design. Das geschah nicht zufällig. So we see, as I often repeat, notwendiger hinaus. It's more beautiful than it needs to be. Zusätzliche Schönheit. Leuchtende Farben, bright colors, süße Düfte, sweet smells. Weiche Blütenblätter, very smooth petals. Verschuldene Formen, complex shapes, natürliche Vielfalt, a great variety, or a man-made variety. Not only has God made a natural variety, but we can enjoy making our own varieties of flower. And flowers have very complex, volatile organic compounds, organische Verbindungen. And jede Blume kann über 100 Arten von Geruchsstoffen enthalten. 100 of these molecules. So every flower is unique, einzigartiger. Every flower has a unique smell and sometimes extremely beautiful smell. Now I have some advice for especially young men. Künstliche Blumen versus echte Blumen. Künstliche Blumen. Wenn Sie künstliche Blumen schenken, werden Sie wahrscheinlich eine Negativreaktion bekommen. Aber mit echten Blumen, dann werden Sie eine bessere Reaktion bekommen. So my advice is you always give echte, real Blumen, real flowers. Actually, there's an important point here. Engineers cannot copy a flower. Engineers cannot make a flower with a smooth petal. It's never smooth and cool to the touch. Engineers cannot make an artificial flower with a nice smell or with a bright color. Engineers cannot do that. So there's actually an important point in this example. So next we come to Bäume. Den Bäumen wurde bewusst Schönheit gegeben. Just like the flowers, God deliberately made trees to be beautiful. In the English translation of this verse, it's really clear. God deliberately made trees to be beautiful. Beachten the Wort, bewusst. God deliberately made trees to be beautiful. Schönheit über das Notwendige hinaus. Ich glaube, der Herbst hat heute in Neuwied begonnen. Aber das bedeutet, dass wir viele Farben in den Blättern sehen werden. Das geschah nicht zufällig. The autumn colors is a surprise, Überraschung for scientists, because the autumn colors come when the chlorophyll dies in the leaves of the trees, and then it reveals the other colors that were already in the leaves. So the chlorophyll dies first, and it reveals, offenbaren, the other colors in the leaves. But scientists don't know why the tree bothers to keep the leaves for several weeks after the chlorophyll has died. It's like a mystery to science, but it's not a mystery for a Christian. This is God's planning to give us the beautiful autumn colors. And why should the blossom have such brilliant colors, like the pink of a cherry tree or the jacaranda Bäume in South America? Trees have like a masculine beauty, but they also have a delicate beauty as well. This is more beauty than is required in creation. Perfectus Farbschema. In creation, we see a perfect color scheme. When I'm teaching my students, I tell them to study the color scheme of creation. So we have this contrast zwischen blauen Himmel und Landfarben, die blauen Himmel and the Landfarben. Wouldn't it be strange if grass was blue and the sky was blue? It would be seltsam, strange. Und grün ist die beste Hintergrundfarbe und wirkt beruhigend. Green is the perfect background color for flowers, and green is also a relaxing color as well. Grün ist eine entspannende Farbe für Menschen. The evolutionist says this is a lucky coincidence, but it's not a lucky coincidence. This shows planning of a creator. Das geschah nicht zufällig. Nicht zufällig. It's a perfect color scheme. So there are two ways, zwei Arten, Bäume zu sehen, two ways to look at wood. We could look at the grain of wood and look at the random shape of the grains, zufällige, längliche Holzfasern, or we can look at the beauty of wood. God has deliberately made wood to be beautiful. As an engineer, I'm fascinated that God has given every type of wood that we need. He's given wood that's good for building. He's given wood that's good for constructing ships or doors. He's given wood that is good for hammers, very tough wood. And God has given beautiful wood for furniture. God not only supplies wood for our functions, but he supplies beautiful wood as well. Now we come to Farben von Tieren, colors of animals. Another Herausforderung für die Evolution, another big challenge. Firstly, because of the complexe Farbmechanismen, and also Schönheit über das Notwendige hinaus. Again, we see more beauty than is required, and you can only explain by design. As I said earlier, we have das Raubtier-Beute-Verhältnis, the predator-prey relationship, and the way schränkt die zusätzliche Schönheit. It restricts the amount of beauty in creation. In particular, mammals have had their color taken away because of the predator-prey relationship. But when you have birds, like birds of paradise, when they live in a dense jungle, they do not need their camouflage, their Tarnung, their camouflage. And for such creatures, God has kept their color. In the case of some butterflies, it doesn't make any difference if they have camouflage. And so they've kept their beautiful colors. So there are some very complex mechanisms for how color is produced in animals. For some animals, it is pigment colors like flamingos or canaries. But for many animals, very complex structural colors, strukturelle Farben, Dunafilm, thin film, interference, photonische Kristalle, photonic crystals. Sometimes there's a combination of the pigment color and the structural color. Often, green is a combination of a pigment yellow, gelb, and also a structural blue. So often, grün is gelb plus blau. I'll say something about photonische Präzision Kristalle. photonic crystals. It's a very complex mechanism. Ein photonischer Kristall ist eine Struktur mit regelmäßigen Lüchen oder Merkmalen. So you have a surface with very regular indentations. It must be very, very accurate and precise, and similar to the wavelength of colored light. You can see these wavelengths on the right. Blau, 140 nanometers. Green, 150 nanometers. Very, very precise. So on a peacock, Phauen, when you have the different colors, notice the spacing has to exactly change. Absolutely exactly from, if you're going from blue to green, 140 nanometers to 150 nanometers. Ingenieure finden es schwierig, diese Oberflächen herzustellen. Doch sie wachsen in einem winzigen Schmetterling. Das ist erstaunlich. That these surfaces can grow in the wing of a butterfly is just astounding. Engineers cannot produce a butterfly wing. It's too complicated to precisely change these tiny spacings of these patterns. Diese Folie zeigt die photonischen Oberflächen für Schmetterlinge, für Käfer, für Pfauen. Aber Schmetterlinge brauchten diese Farben nicht. Käfer brauchten diese Farben nicht. Pfauen brauchten diese Farben nicht. They do not need these beautiful structural colors. Das geschah nicht zufällig. This is planned by the Creator. Personally, I love the Schmetterlinge. The butterflies are so beautiful. They're tiny. They do not need notwendiger. It's not necessary to have this incredible beauty. And these are actual photographs of this precision surface. We see perfection. Perfection of design. As we heard from Marcus this morning, there's a lot of information required to create this beauty. And that information has to come for some reason, and the only logical reason is the Creator. Der V, koordinierte Schönheit, coordinated beauty in the peacock. We see the patterns, the Formen, we see the render, the borders. By the way, those different colors, remember, they have a different wavelength, maybe different by 10 nanometers. And that pattern, mathematische Muster, is a digital pattern because the barbs go through, you have different colors on the same barbs of the feather. So it is a coordinated digital pattern, a lot of information. And you have exactly the right change of spacing of the holes down to a few nanometers. It's just astounding. There's even a leere rand, an empty border at the top. Notice there's an empty border at the top. It's just a ridiculous design feature. It's like a clever idea of a student. I'll have an empty border by taking the hairs away. It's an incredible detail. There's also no stem at the top of the eye feather, because if you look carefully, the barbs gradually point upwards, like this. And because they do that, there is no steel, there's no stem up in the top of the eye pattern. Varum, why? Because if you had a stem going all the way through the eye pattern, it would a little bit be going through the beautiful eye. So a brilliant artist says, I will not have a stem, I'll have kein steel. And I will do that by changing the angle of the barbs. It's the most incredible little detail. Where did this detail come from? It's the design of a perfectionist. God is perfect in his design. Notice how all of the feathers come to a punct, like this. They all come to a point, exactly, perfect point. Each feather is deployed with a muscle, a musculn. And the muscles are so accurate, they create the perfect will. Zusätzliche Schönheit. And you see, in the peacock, you see a royal blue, Königsblau. And you see Kronenfedern. You see the crown feathers on the head. It's like a royal theme. So this is Herausforderung für Evolution, a big challenge for evolution. So what does the evolutionist say? What do they believe? Evolution är Theorie der sexuellen Selektion. Weibchen, the female, assoziieren Schönheit mit Gesundheit und wählen daher ein schönes Menschen aus. So the female associates beauty with health, Schönheit mit Gesundheit, and then chooses a male. But this is very controversial. It's well known that this is a very controversial theory. Why? Wie können Weibchen Schönheit erkennen? How can they recognize beauty? What humans can recognize beauty, but animals don't recognize beauty. Secondly, warum sollten Weibchen Schönheit mit Gesundheit assoziieren? Why should the female associate beauty with health? Warum? Why does health mean beauty? And thirdly, dritte, warum sollten Weibchen überhaupt ein gesundes Menschen bevorzugen? Why would the female think, if I have this male, it's good for my offspring? Weibchen hat keine Qualifikationen in Genetik, has not studied genetics, so how does she know that he's going to produce better offspring? Viele Problem for evolution, a big controversy. Actually, there are other problems as well. Eine Herausforderung für die Evolution. Dies ist erstaunlich. Nature, 1. August 2025. This is a few weeks ago. One of the biggest discoveries. Überraschung. Die Augenpunkte haben einzigartige Eigenschaften, die Lichtwellen ausrichten, indem sie hin und her prallen lassen und sie so in ein gelb-grünes Laser verwandeln. Das ist erstaunlich. Lasers coming from a peacock. Die erste Zeit, the first time. Ich bin nicht überrascht. God is perfect. God explores every type of design. I sometimes use a laser in my laboratory. It takes a lot of equipment. But God can do it with ein Federn, just a feather and a laser beam. Das geschah nicht zufällig. Nicht zufällig. If you are interested, I have written a paper. It's now quite old with CMI, Creation Ministries International, The Beauty of the Peacock Tail, but also written it in a couple of books, including Wunderwerke, if you want. You can look that up. Pfauenfedern beunruhigten Darwin. It worried Darwin. Sorgen für Darwin. I think Marcus referred to this morning. Der Anblick einer Feder am Schwanz eines Pfaus macht mich krank, wenn immer ich sie betrachte. He said it made him feel sick. But if Darwin was here today, then he would, and he saw the laser beam in the peacock feather. Wenn Darwin heute hier wäre, extrem krank, mehr krank, mehr krank, really, really sick, if he was here today. Vogelgesang. Now we consider the music of birds. I think this is one of the strongest, stärker arguments against evolution. Because in the case of birdsong, male birds do not sing so much to attract a mate. They mark out their territory. It's very difficult to say why would a male bird sing to frighten his neighbor at the same time as attracting a mate. To frighten and attract, it's a really difficult problem. Musikalische Schönheit im Vogelgesang. Birds have many musical features. They learn songs, gelernte Lieder. Some of them have perfect tone, incredible. Some birds sing with perfect pitch. If you listen to your local blackbird in your garden, from one day to the next, you can notice two things. One, they sing sometimes the same song. It's not random notes. They have a set of songs. And if you listen, it's quite easy to do. You just listen after a few days. You hear the same song. And it will be sung in the same key. If it was sung in D major yesterday, it will be sung in D major tomorrow. They have perfect pitch. Some birds inherit their songs from their parents. Even if they never hear their parents, they sing the same song. It's written in their DNA. Some birds will transpose from a major key to a minor key. Some can sing very fast. And some birds have a very large number of songs in their repertoire. The nightingale holds the recorder, up to 300 songs in their repertoire. It's astounding. So, one of my Lieblings, favorite composers, J.S. Bach. So on the top line is music by J.S. Bach. Fantastic composer. And if you study this piece of music, you notice things. It has a key signature and a time signature. This doesn't happen by chance. Nicht zufällig. Time signature, key signature. You notice zwei gleich lange Phrasen, two similar phrases. The first phrase ends with anticipation, Vorfreude. The second phrase ends with what we call finality, Endgültigkeit. It's an ending, like a major third or a major fifth, the way a piece of music ends. And also, it starts on the keynote, it has harmonics. Anyway, you need a degree in music to understand the musicality of J.S. Bach. So who wrote the bottom piece of music? Because it has the same features as J.S. Bach. All of the same features. It has two phrases. It has melody and it has rhythms. The two phrases are related. It finishes with the end, Gültigkeit, the ending. It has everything. So is the bottom piece, if you showed it to a musician, he would say, yeah, the second one could be J.S. Bach. But it's not J.S. Bach, it's a blackbird. And the blackbird has not got a degree in music. So how did the blackbird compose something with the same musicality as J.S. Bach? It has astounded musicians. If you get a toddler to play the piano, they cannot play with a key signature, a time signature. Das geschah nicht zufällig. It cannot happen by chance. To me, this is one of the strongest evidences for design. They have discovered birds, Vögel, that sing a duet. Male and female will sing a duet. To sing a duet, both birds, beide Vögel, must know the music. And they must sing in the same key and the same speed. It takes coordination. They have even discovered birds that sing a quartet. 4 birds singing in a quartet. Astounding. And in this case, the birds are not even friends. They have different territory. 2 pairs of mating birds. All 4 birds must know the quartet and sing in the same key and the same speed. It's just amazing. If you're interested in this, if you listen to your local blackbird in your garden, if you just listen patiently, after a few seconds, you hear another blackbird sing back to your blackbird. And then this one will sing back to this blackbird, and then it will sing back. And they have discovered that the birds select a song that complements the other person. It's called matched countersinging. They actually choose a song that is a beautiful complement. Das geschah nicht zufällig. It's a brilliant evidence of design. So, they have done a study of the music of J.S. Bach, and they have studied the music of the African shrike. In music, you can have a consonant interval, which is a very pleasant interval. You can have a dissonant interval, like a minor seventh. It's not very pleasant interval. And they compared J.S. Bach with an African shrike, and they found that the African shrike had more harmony in its songs than J.S. Bach. Astounding. If the African shrike was just singing random notes, the graph would be just flat. But the African shrike is choosing not to have dissonant intervals. With music, you find there is objective beauty, objektiv Schönheit. It's very mathematical. By the way, when I teach students how to design a motor car, like a BMW 8, the first lecture, I teach them music. And the reason I teach them music, I teach them how you end music, how you relate phrases, and then I say, now when you design a motor car, and you have a beautiful feature and another beautiful feature, they must be connected. Like the music of J.S. Bach, you must connect. This curve with this curve must be connected. And when you get to the end of the car, you must have finality. Like J.S. Bach, when he finishes his music, the end of the car must be like that. And the students see that music is very mathematical, and so visual design of a motor car can be very mathematical and logical. So my students read that. Okay, this is ein wichtiger Folie. This person here, Professor Thorpe, he was the Führer, the leader of birdsong. He was at the top university, Cambridge University, and he said something amazing in his book. Es ist schwer, sich einen selektiven Grund für die Extremreinheit einiger Vogelstimmen vorzustellen. It is very difficult to find a reason for the extreme purity of some bird notes. Wir finden eine große Menge an Ausarbeitung, die über das hinausgeht, was biologisch vorteilhaft zu sein scheint. There is a lot of elaboration that goes beyond anything that is biologically advantageous. So here we have a world leader, biologist, saying he does not know how biology could work in his field. But what I've discovered in my time in academia, people like him will say, I cannot understand evolution in my area, but I assume it works because it seems to work in everybody else's area. But what he doesn't know is that they are saying das Gleiche, the same. They can see it doesn't work in their area, but they assume it works in every other area. What I find most frustrating in academia, I often see these doubts about evolution, but these things do not get down to the schools and the colleges. It's filtered out. This is the most frustrating thing. All the time in academia, I see doubts, problems. Evolution has this problem, this problem, this problem. But don't tell the students. Do not tell the students. It's a big frustration für mich. Eine Herausforderung für die Schöpfung. So, if you ask the question, why does my blackbird robin sing? He's marking out his territory. And the reason God did this, God wants to give a reason for the birds to sing. So he said, yeah, you should sing to mark out your territory. Imagine if lions sang to mark out their territory. This would be sehr seltsam, very strange. But this is what birds are doing. They are singing to mark out their territory. A great example of design. Die Sterne, the stars. Beachten. In this verse, God is deliberately, bewusst, deliberately making the stars to be beautiful, Schönheit. Sometimes we forget God has deliberately made the world to be beautiful, bewusst, deliberate. And so we see this great variety, Vielfalt von Formen, Farben, endless variety of colors and shapes. The latest telescopes, the James Webb Telescope, is showing the majesty of the universe, God's perfection in the universe. And the Earth, die Erde, einzigartige, grüne, laue planet, unique, green, blue, beautiful planet. Zwei Arten, die Sterne zu sehen, two ways to look at the stars. When many scientists look through the James Webb Telescope, ich sehe gravitational waves, Wellen. They saw gravitational waves. But other people, Christen, ich sehe ein majestisches Universum, a majestic universe. Two ways to look at the beauty of the stars. Der menschliche Körper. We have a famous verse, berühmter Verse in Psalm 139:14. Ich preise dich, dass ich so wunderbar und einzigartig gemacht bin. One of the reasons is the beauty of man. This is the famous Vitruvianische Mensch, a famous picture, berühmt Bild. I don't know if you've ever studied this picture, but if you put your arms out, the distance from your fingertips is the same as your height. Exactly the same. So you fit inside a quadrat, a square. And also, if you do a star jump, you fit inside a circle, and the belly button is the center of the circle. And there are other proportions in here as well. And we have fine hair, a beautiful face. It's not possible to improve on this design. I was speaking at a gymnasium 2 days ago in Frankenthal, a gymnasium, a Nicht-Christen-Schule. And I had a schwierig Zeit, a difficult time. The students asked very difficult questions. One student said, but maybe one day, vielleicht ein Tag, maybe one day we find a more beautiful alien, more beautiful than a human. And I said, this is not going to happen. I said, for example, people have tried to change the design of the human face, and I don't think it's an improvement. I really don't think it's better than the human face. This is my Überraschung, my surprise. Nummer 7. Schöne Sprachen, beautiful speech, beautiful languages. What is the most beautiful language in the world? We all have our own opinion. Ich denke, Deutsch, the most beautiful language in the world. Schmetterling, bunte Blumen, Dünschichtoberfläche, photonische Kristalle. Sehr schön. Actually, it's interesting. At the Tower of Babel, God made a judgment. But in his mercy, he created beautiful languages. So sometimes, even in judgment, we see God's Fürsorge, his care for mankind, creating beautiful languages. But what is the purpose, der Sinn, der Zweck von Schönheit? What is the purpose of beauty? Das ist wichtig, wichtige Frage. The Bible speaks a lot about beauty. Den Schöpfer zu offenbaren. Beauty reveals God, his glory, Herrlichkeit, his power, Macht, Weisheit, wisdom, Güte, his goodness. So we have no excuse. This relates to Roma 21, Roman 1:20. Beauty reveals the Creator, his power, his glory. Das ist wichtig. I'm very encouraged, Ermutigung, with the title of this conference, Perfection in Creation. Because I am just publishing a book through the Discovery Institute in America. It will be released after Christmas. I submitted the book 3 days ago, so I'm very relieved and happy. This is, you are the first people, erste Menschen, to see the cover of the book. You are the first people to see it. Ultimate Engineering. And the book is all about perfection in creation. So it's an amazing thing that I come to this conference, and the title of the conference is Perfection in Creation. And it's based on Psalm 18, verse 30. God's way is perfect. So there are 3 things I say in my book. Erster, God can only design perfect engineering. It's not just God is a good designer, he's a perfect designer. And it's not he can design perfect. He can only design in a perfect way. Of course, we see degradation of design, but if you understand what is the degradation, then you see perfection of design. Beispiel, for example, if you look at DNA, you cannot improve on the information storage of DNA. It's at the limit of what is possible. If you study the human brain, it's on the limit of what is possible. And in my book, I go through many examples of parts of I focus on the human body. It is at the limit of what is possible. Everything God designed, it's perfection, although you have to take into account the genetic decay. But this is only one thing. God can only design perfect beauty. So when we look at the kingfisher, the peacock, we're seeing perfection of beauty. And it's not a surprise to see the laser beam in the peacock, the phaon, the laser beam. It's not that God can design perfect beauty. God can only design perfect beauty because he's perfect. He can't design less than perfection. So he designs perfect engineering. The DNA, the brain is perfection, and the beauty is perfection. Although, as I said, the Raubtier-Beute-Verhältnis, the predator-prey relationship, has removed some color from creation. But if you take that into account, you can see God's perfection. But there's a third thing. And this third thing is a really interesting thing that I discovered when I was writing the book. God can only design perfect diversity. Because people have often said, why did God design dinosaurs? Why did he design the huge birds? Why did he design a fish at the bottom of the sea? Because God is perfect. It's not that he can design all the limits of possibility. He has to do that. I'm a designer myself, and I help design the fastest bicycle in the world. It's natural for a designer to explore what is the fastest, the highest, the deepest, the strongest, the thinnest, the biggest. And God himself, being perfect, he has explored every possibility of design. God had to design dinosaurs. He had to. Because it shows what is possible at the biggest size. He designed the smallest insect, which is at the limit of what is possible. He designed the color mechanisms at the limit of what is possible. So God is perfect in 3 ways: the perfect engineering, the perfect beauty, and the perfect diversity. And ich bin sehr glücklich. It's exactly the theme of the conference, God's perfection in creation. Perfect engineering, perfect beauty, perfect diversity. In my book, I have this diagram. Okay, the diagram on the vertical axis is sophistication. On the bottom axis is time. According to evolution, we started at the bottom and then we are increasing. But notice, evolution can never catch up human technology because engineers are not restricted by evolution. Evolution is restricted to step-by-step change. But an engineer is not restricted to that. So evolution can never design as good as a human engineer. And evolutionists have agreed and recognized this. But the intelligent design prediction is that biology should be more sophisticated than human engineering. So ID prediction is the top line. It starts with perfection, and then there is genetic decay. From ultimate engineering, we can still recognize ultimate engineering today if we understand the genetic decay. And of course, the observation is exactly what the intelligent design worldview predicts. The observation is exactly that ID prediction. The observation is not in line with the evolution prediction. Science supports the Bible. Science supports intelligent design. I am involved in bio-inspired design. So like many engineers around the world, I study biology and I copy to make better engineering technology. This is exactly what this diagram is recommending to do, because if biology is so much better than technology, then engineers should be copying. This explains why engineers copy biology. But if evolution was true, engineers should not be copying biology because evolution is restricted. It could never design as good as engineering. And in my book, I confront people like Nathan Lentz, Abby Hafer, Richard Dawkins, Jerry Coyne, all of these evolutionists, and I say, I agree with their prediction. They predict biology should be a bad design, and I say they're correct. They're correct. They're saying biology should have a bad design. We should be full of bad design. And then, of course, I then say their prediction is correct for evolution, but the actual reality does not support their prediction because the reality is the top line. So first of all, Schöpfung, Offenbaren, it reveals God. Secondly, zu unserem Vergnügen, God has given us richly all things to enjoy. And God has given us a brain, a Gehirn, which has an area dedicated to musical beauty and visual beauty. We are designed to appreciate beauty, schätze, appreciate beauty. God has given us richly all things to enjoy. He's given us the senses to appreciate creation. One of the interesting discoveries I made writing my book, sometimes we hear, well, humans, our sense of smell and hearing is not as good as animals, as Tiere. But I have found these scientific papers saying, actually, this is not true. Our sense of smell and our hearing is actually better than animals. For example, with our hearing, our ears are really excellent at differentiating between very similar sounds. in a way other animals cannot differentiate. The reason we need to have a fine differentiation is because in languages, different syllables can be really, very similar. Languages are very subtle and precise. And human hearing has an amazing ability to differentiate between two different sounds. Other animals cannot do that. And it's the same with our sense of smell. We can differentiate between smells. So we may not be able to have a resolution like a dog with hearing and smelling, but we have something appropriate for ourselves with better differentiation. And you can find these the scientific papers I have in my book. Gott hat uns ein Gehirn gegeben, das Schönheit schätzen kann. Gott ist so gut. Ein Eindruck des Himmels. Beauty is a very important concept for heaven. If you read the Psalms, like Psalm 50, 15, it talks about perfection of beauty in heaven. Heaven has perfect beauty. It's not just that heaven has a lot of beauty. Heaven has perfect beauty. In the original creation, there was perfection of beauty. But in heaven, there will be that perfection of beauty. So in this life, we're encouraged and reminded to think ahead of beauty of heaven. Also, beauty is ein Bild für die Erlösung. Beauty reminds us of the beauty of salvation. It's a wonderful verse in Psalm 149, Vers 4. Denn der Herr hat wohlgefallen an seinem Volk. Er hilft den Erleden herrlich. God clothes the humble with righteousness. God beautifies. God makes a non-Christian beautiful for heaven. It's a wonderful picture of beauty. So you see, beauty is an important concept in the Bible. I give you a picture of salvation. I'm sure you have seen at least a picture of a beautiful pearl. A pearl starts off as a piece of grit. The grit is not beautiful, but it's covered in a mollusk. It's covered in layers upon layers of nacre. And eventually it becomes beautiful. This is like a picture of a Christian. They start off being not beautiful, but God clothes them in the righteousness of Christ. If they repent of their sins and trust in God, believe that Jesus died on the cross and rose again, then that person is beautified with salvation. Maybe God designed the pearl just to give this picture of a transformation from something worthless to something very beautiful and precious. Here is a quotation from Darwin. This is from his autobiography, and he said, I'll summarize, in his life he lost his taste for beauty. And I've seen this with other atheists. They've said during their life they lose their attraction to beauty. He says, I've lost my taste, pictures or music. I'm losing my taste for beauty. This is what happens if you're an atheist. But if you're a Christian, during your life, you do not lose your taste for beauty. It's a really interesting example of how negative an atheistic worldview can be. Deshalb, Schönheit ist eine große Ermutigung für Christen und eine große Herausforderung für Atheisten. Lasst uns dem Herrn für sein Geschenk der Schönheit in der Schöpfung danken. Wir müssen danken zu Gott. Ein wunderbarer Geschenk. Schönheit. I hope that's an encouragement to you. I have more things on my website. Let me just share an encouragement with you. I mentioned I spoke at a gymnasium 2 days ago in Frankenthal. There were 100 17, 18-year-old students. Some of them are very angry with me, speaking of creation. But I can detect how many people go on my website, and normally it's 5 a day, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. After the gymnasium talk, I checked, and 50 students went on my website. I could tell 50 people from Germany, and the only reason was I went to the gymnasium. So I had an angry reaction, but 50 out of 100 were looking at my website. So it was very encouraging. So if I also have a new video about a 20-minute video about the biomechanics of joints. If you're interested in design of the human body, do look at the video. It's just been there for a few weeks. It was made by a friend in America. But I hope you found that encouraging. We may even have chance for 1 or 2 questions, but it's up to Paul.